Vandeham Sri Guru.
Okay. So today's topic is love and the iPhone. Understanding material versus spiritual love. I'd like you to do a small exercise. Sharad, nice to see you. I'd like you to do a small exercise. Please write down in, I guess, descending order, what are some of the most dear things for you? When I say things, I also mean people. Meaning, what would be the most difficult to give up? And go in descending order. The most difficult to, the next more difficult, and then difficult and very easy to give up. So the bottom of the list would be the easiest that you'll be able to give up. Take a couple of minutes and see. No need for pen and paper. You can type and text me the answer. You need paper and pencil. You're thinking. I'm still developing the capacity of reading people's mind. I haven't got that there yet. 2 more months, I'll be ready. Putting it in order is difficult?
No, I don't know what I would give up, so.
Yeah, I know. Me too. That's why I'm giving you the exercise. You don't have a pen. She also needs paper. You know, best is you dictate to someone and I will write for you.
Bhagavatam.
Ganesha.
Ganesha.
All right, 1 more minute. Still difficult?
No, I've got it.
Okay. Something to think about. If you can add to this list later. I'd like to go around the room, getting to know people's names, so I know who I'm talking to, and so others also know. So small groups. I like smaller groups. I don't like. Go ahead. Tell me your name and what you're doing on campus.
My name is Pran. I'm doing PhD in education.
My name is Nityananda. I'm doing undergraduate mechanical engineering.
My name is Maurice Golding, computer engineer.
Boris?
Maurice.
B-O-R.
Maurice.
Maurice.
Sorry.
M-A-U-R-I-C.
Maurice. Correct.
Azala, I'm an alumni. Krishna. I am doing PhD in EC department.
Leela Manjari. I was a student at IIT very long ago.
I'm Ray. I'm a business administration student first year.
Right?
Ray.
Ray.
My name is Shrikar and I'm from Materials Department. I'm doing my master's here.
This is your first semester.
Yeah.
Just coming straight landing just now. From where?
From India, Hyderabad.
My name is Satish and I am studying chemical engineering masters.
First semester. So just landed. From where?
And this is Srikar. I'm doing the masters in computer science.
Just landed from Hyderabad?
Yeah.
My name is Stephanie Pran and I'm a
Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Yeah. I'm a fifth year architecture student.
Very good.
Hi, my name is Sonam Kanako and I'm pursuing my
One more time. Name?
Sonam Kanako.
So,
And I'm pursuing my Master of Science in Computer Science.
computer science. Just landed from Hyderabad.
No, not from Hyderabad. From Indore.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Aditya and I am a master's student in electrical engineering.
Okay. Aditya.
Hi, my name is Swati. It's my second semester at IIT and I'm doing Masters in Industrial Technology and Management.
Very good. Thank you for coming. Okay, so, oh yeah, go ahead. I'm so sorry. You'd like to volunteer something from your list? Anyone? Top on the list? Maurice, would you like to?
Top on my list of things that I would not give up. I mean,
It would
it's
be very difficult to give up. Yeah.
my family,
Very good. Okay.
followed by friends, then health, my pets, education, my house, my bicycles, and then after that, it's all.
What's
material.
last on the list?
Honestly, this iPad.
Thank you very much. Okay, good. Thank you. Anyone else?
Family and food.
Family and food. Very good. Hey, you and I will make good friends. My order is food and family. All right. Anyone else? Sona? How'd you get to America? Leaving family? Something?
I had like pretty much like people in general, like everyone, just like interacting with everyone. That's kind of like it's kind of hard for me not to like talk to people, not have like I couldn't be alone. It becomes to be real hard for me. And like afterwards, I'd be like I'm a computer guy, so like internet, and then computer afterwards, and then other things that just random.
Okay. Anyone else?
Oh, yeah. Gadgets is quite up there. Internet, computer. Because when I think of something I want to give up, it should be something I can substitute very easily. But now, all my knowledge is on Wikipedia. Seems like that. So.
Well, you need help. He and I are friends. No, thank you for sharing. Where does your mother fall on this list?
Up there.
Chirag, something?
How have I put it? Family, education, friends. Yeah, the very last would be like eating.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Fantastic. So, well, I have about 50 minutes, so by no means am I going to do justice for the whole topic, especially because I like to talk. But we'll at least touch on some things, and mostly something to think about. And what we'll do is, over the course of the semester, we'll talk different topics, and you'll see that somehow there's always a theme, something that connects all the different topics. A few years ago, a very good friend of mine, he said a very nice thing. He said, in this material world, we're very attached to things and we use people. And it should be the other way around. He says, for a developed consciousness, we should be attached to people and using things. So that's the root of this idea love and the iPhone. The idea with the iPhone is the tendency, because it's considered to be like the most coveted piece of material, I guess, discovery or invention that people rave about, talk about, stand in line midnight through whatever, just for the Apple Store to open so they can get their latest version of iPhone 5, which is no different from 4S. Really, not that different. I think maybe some features, but the idea is that's so dear. And from the point of view of, I guess, spiritual development or idea of elevated consciousness, material things don't have much value. They have utility, but not much value. What has value is relationships. Now we're going to talk about a little about matter and why there's not much value in it, or why spiritually advanced people don't assign value. Of course, for people assign value because we pay money for it, but why from a spiritual perspective, people with developed consciousness don't assign value to material things. That's one thing we'll talk about. And second, we'll talk about relationships. Relationships of this world and relationships that are what we call otherworldly or spiritual. So that's about what we will get through today. Okay? So first of all, it is described, my reference for most of what I'll be talking about is a book called the Bhagavad Gita. How many of you have heard the word, ever heard of what is the Bhagavad Gita? Okay. Like some Maurice perhaps most. Okay. The Bhagavad Gita, for your edification or just appreciation, is a timeless classic of a conversation between two persons. And they're actually friends. One of them is one of them is the Supreme, the one who is the creator of everything. And the other person who is confused as to what is to be done, what is not to be done, doesn't know how to act in certain situations, is his friend, yet confused, which is supposed to be most of us. And so it talks about spiritual principles. Now, principles are those that are not affected by time or circumstance or person, meaning it's applicable to you, it's applicable to you, it's applicable to me, it's applicable to every one of us, regardless of where we come from, what religion we practice, what gender we are, what country we come from, is irrelevant because they are spiritual in nature. So as we go through the semester, we'll dig a little deeper into the Bhagavad Gita per se, meaning we'll talk about these principles. So everything that we see around us, primarily, the big buildings, the clothes that we wear, the floor we stand on, the clothes that, the jackets that we have, the gadgets that we use, etc. Our body included is made of 5 elements. They're called the earth, water, fire, air, and ether, or space. And everything that we come across is some combination of these 5 in different proportions. Okay? So we'll start here, first from us, and then we'll expand it to other places. So the human body, for example, is made of these 5 elements. When we say earth, we mean the grossest, where we can touch, like our skin. That's the earth element. Our flesh, everything. Bones. And there is water. What % of the human body is made up of water? 70. Right. So there's water. Is there fire in the body? Yes?
Feels like it sometimes.
put a thermometer in our mouth, it measures 98.6. Hi, come on in. Yeah, 98.6. So there is latent heat. It's called fire element. Then there is air. I've met persons who are full of hot air, but there is air in the body. There are actually, from a yogic perspective, those who are familiar with the yoga principles, they know that there are 10 kinds of airs passing through the body. 5 pairs of airs actually. The pairs of air that we breathe in, the pairs of air that we breathe out, the intra-organ spaces or airs, the airs that we evacuate, the airs that move within the organs, all of that. There are 5 different pairs of such airs. Anyone who reads Yoga Sutras will know. Then there is space. Right? Space is molecular space, physical space that is within the body. And also certain times, have you seen people space out? So there is space. Now this we're just talking confined to the body, and the same elements manifest in the world that we interact with. I'm going to pause. 2 folks just joined us. We'd like you to introduce yourself, your name, and what you do on campus.
My name is Travis Abad. I'm a computer science student.
What student?
Computer science.
Computer science. Okay. Yeah, just pass it on.
Computer science major as well.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nityananda, Pran. We're just talking about matter. Yeah. So there are these 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and that's what our bodies constitute. Right? And then when we look outside, everything that's within our experience also comes from these 5 elements. This building has earth, water, fire, air, space, or ether. The cars, automobiles that we see, pick anything. The food that we eat is all a combination of these 5 elements. But there is one difference, if you will, between, let's say, us and this chair that's made of the 5 elements. There's 5 elements here, 5 elements here. There's one difference. Someone said feelings. You said feelings? You said soul? Okay. Any other? Life. Okay. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether, space.
What is the fire?
Heat. Fire element manifests in different ways. There is latent heat here, there is heat in the body. It said all of these are true. We say life, soul, we say, what was the other? Feelings. Feelings are a little something to talk about. Essentially, the difference between this chair and, I guess, me as a person is that I have consciousness. The chair doesn't. And the presence of consciousness indicates the presence of what we say living entity. We called it soul. The Vedic nomenclature is that it's called Atma, or soul, or living being. So this material world that we see is a combination of 5 elements and or 5 elements plus the conscious living entity. So wherever we see the presence of consciousness, some manifestation of consciousness, that's an indication that there is this matter and spirit combination. And this matter and spirit combination appears across different species, the human beings, the animals, the plants, the aquatics, the birds, insects. According to the Vedic worldview, there are 8,400,000 categories of species and unlimited living entities that occupy these 8,400,000 categories. So matter by itself is inert. And there are other finer elements within matter. So there's the 5 are called the gross elements, and there are 3 what we say are subtle elements. The subtle elements are the mind, the intelligence, and we call it ego, the sense of identity. These are material. These are not spiritual. They're not conscious. The mind, the intelligence, and the sense of identity. For example, if I were to ask you, who are you? Who are you? What would you say?
Depends on the day.
Okay. Who are you today?
I am a student.
Okay, very good. Someone else? Who are you?
Trying to find out.
Oh, very good. So someone doesn't know.
I guess probably I'm just a living organism, just an organism, I just have a material body, and there's something known as a soul, which is basically bringing me alive. Otherwise, this body would just be some kind of a corpse. So
Is that what,
it would be the soul.
does that conception drive everything that you do?
Yes, I mean, without that spark of life in this body,
Okay.
I would be nothing, just something, just another mass.
Mass or mess? Either would be right.
Yeah.
Sonam, who are you? Soul. Okay. Stephanie?
That's a hard question.
Hard question. Yeah. And often not considered. So the sense of identity, I am, comes from the platform of ego. That ego gives us a sense of identity. I am a man, or I'm a woman, I'm a student, I'm American, I'm whatever, I'm Jewish, I'm Hindu, I'm intelligent, I'm rich, I'm good looking, or not, or whatever. Nobody says it. Different ideas of our identity come from the ego platform. And then there is the mind, and then there is the intelligence. Now these 3 are the subtle material elements. The mind is not conscious. The mind becomes activated because of the presence of the soul. The difference, the Vedas, they sometimes give very complex truths in simple language. And the simple language is the difference between a live person and a dead person. Between the live and the dead, what is the difference? The live person has a heart and brain and other organs. The dead person also has a heart and brain and other organs, but they're not working. The live person can think and act and speak, and the dead person cannot. So the difference, what's lacking in one, is the presence of soul. We say life force, but it's presence of soul. The presence of which brings about consciousness and activation of everything. So in other words, this body is a very complex machinery. Just like a car. A car has mechanical, electrical, other machinery, all of it nicely networked, proper intelligence put into it. And unless it is turned on by a driver, all that machinery doesn't activate. Now somebody might say, well, what about remote controlled cars? It is still being driven by a person. Right? So until it's turned on, fired up, or ignited as they say, ignition, all of this complex machinery just sits there. Once you turn it on, the mechanical part works, the electrical parts work, the intelligence. The dashboard tells you what's happening. The dashboard gives you the speed, gives you how much fuel you have, how much further you can go, etc. Right? All that intelligence is because there's a driver. And when the driver walks out, it all, I guess, dies. Similarly, in this complex machinery, there is a living being who's the driver. And when the driver leaves, this complex machinery comes to a stop, which we call death. So death is nothing but the leaving of the soul from this body. We're not going to talk about it today, but we will during the course of the semester, as to what happens to the soul. Where does the soul go? Does it go at all anyway? What is the meaning of death? Is there life after death, etc.? And what decides where is the next place that the soul would go? So we'll talk about a few of these things. So generally, in the absence of a different conception, the soul who's residing in this complex machinery is influenced by the ego. Generally we call it the false ego, because it gives us an identity that I am a man, I am a student, I am a husband, a father, I am whatever, rich, poor, intelligent, whatever is our conception, the soul is given a different identity than it actually is. How to understand this? So Maurice, have you ever acted in a play, drama or anything? Have you seen a drama play?
Yes.
Okay. So let's take that we are in a drama. Okay. So let's say Stephanie is playing the role of a queen in the drama. That would be nice. So as long as she's on stage, her sense of her identity is, I'm a queen. She acts like a queen, she speaks like a queen, she walks like a queen, sits like a queen, etc. Right? And as long as the drama is going on, the play is on, she's a queen. That is her sense of identity. But when the drama is over, and she goes home and continues to behave like a queen, what would people say? What would people say to you? Yeah, if you kept speaking like that. Get me dinner. They'll say, come back to your senses. What's wrong? Go ahead.
I have six questions. First, for the analogy between the
car and machine.
Yeah. First of all, when a human being dies,
You need to speak up a little bit.
Can they come front?
First of all, when a human being dies, it's correct that none of the human organs that we can see are missing, but we shouldn't
finished yet, so thank you for bringing it up. That's a perfect segue. You're actually helping me. That's fantastic.
That's what happens when you have science people in the lecture.
Great. So back to the analogy. Just as outside of the drama, Stephanie has an identity, a set of features, functionalities, all of that, the soul outside of this body has personality, feature, all of that. Okay? Except that our ability to capture and I guess perceive is a little different or doesn't exist because we are dealing very much in the material realm. So let's for the time being focus on the material realm. We will talk about the spiritual dimension shortly. So the idea was we were just talking about ego, how ego gives us a sense of identity. That's the analogy here. Okay? Because we have stepped into a particular role, we have a sense of identity. And from that identity comes the way we think, our feelings, etc. So back to the drama here. When Stephanie is playing the role of a queen, because of that identity, her feelings, her intelligence, etc., are working within the role of a queen. Right? Now when she goes back home, the drama's over, she goes back home, she has a different sense of identity. I am a young woman. That's her identity. Her feelings, her attributes, her personality will be governed by her identity of being a young woman. So we see that our ego operates in all aspects of our lives, and we keep either looking at different dimensions or layers of identity. And and you answered, well, it depends on the day. It depends on the circumstance. And it depends upon so many other factors. Behind all of this, your name again? Shahid. Shadi. Okay, thank you, sir. Behind all of this, if you, using his language for the moment, if you strip the human from all of these features or designations or sets of identities, you remove the earth element, you remove the water, the fire, the air, ether, the mind, the intelligence, even the ego, what remains is the pure soul. And that soul has certain characteristics: eternality, cognizance, and what's called bliss. Plus a set of activities. It is because of the presence of the soul that there is activity. In the absence of the soul, there isn't activity. He calls it blood circulation. All of that features, I'm talking of the Vedic worldview here, is the presence of the soul activates or makes all of these functions manifest, the absence of which doesn't. And the soul doesn't have to occupy only a human body. It can be in any of the different bodies. So when we go through the semester, we will come back to a topic called karma theory. What is karma? We've heard the word karma? Yes? So randomly, what does karma mean to any of you? Shadi, you want to take a try? What is karma? You've heard the word karma? I'm not looking for the perfect definition, I'm looking for what you understand from it.
It's like a spiritual experience.
Someone else?
What
It's work that you do.
Fate or destiny.
Fate or destiny. You see different words being
I want to
used.
say destiny.
Destiny? Okay.
The work that's assigned to a person or the work that he did.
Karma has two connotations in Sanskrit language. One is any action that a person performs, any activity, that is called karma. And more importantly, every action has a reaction. And that's called karma. So whatever I do, there is a reaction. You want to hear a joke? I like this one. There was a man who showed up at the gates of heaven, apparently. And Saint Peter opened the gates and said, "Yes, what do you want?" He said, "I'd like to come in." So he checked his book and says, "We don't have your name here. We're not expecting you. How'd you get here?" "Oh, I want to get in. I showed up here." He said, "Do you know to get into heaven, you have to perform some good deed. Otherwise you can't get in. Have you performed any good deed?" He said, "Yeah, I have." So I said, "Yeah, please tell me, what have you done?" He said, "I was walking along the street and I saw a few bikers. They were all this tall, big, and they were harassing a young woman. Yeah. And so I walked up to one of the bikers and I told him to back off." I said, "Oh, really? That's interesting. What happened?" He said, "The fellow didn't back off, so I reached up my hand and I yanked out the ring that was around his nose. I pulled it off." I said, "Wow, that is really daring." And he said, "And when did that happen?" He said, 2 minutes ago." So that's karma. For every action that we do, there is a reaction. Some reactions come instantly, some reactions come later, some come way much later in time. So in the Vedas, it's described, it's like sowing a seed. I guess in biblical language, some people say, "As you sow, so shall you reap." So it's like sowing a seed. Some seeds germinate quickly. Some seeds germinate with time, and some seeds germinate way with time. So things that we do in our life, especially as human beings, they have reactions. And that's what we will talk about during karma theory. So if you would like to join us at that time, that's fantastic. So back to stripping out all of the layers, if you will, of the soul within this material world. We're left with the pure soul that is eternal, cognizant, and full of bliss, happiness. Now back to our material condition. When we have a different ego, a sense of identity, within that identity we ascribe or we look for happiness according to that identity. Yes, Boris.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
My question is this. I'm just trying to understand. I'm not trying to insinuate the question a bit difficult, but by identity you mean that we are all unique.
Correct.
However, when you strip down all the physical elements, and you look down at the soul, what is the thing that makes us actually unique?
Each soul is an individual. Although eternal, cognizant, and blissful, it's an individual conscious being.
How is it different? How is the soul different from a different soul? And let's say that.
How is it so different from mine?
Let's say that, of course, maybe you can, without a lot of knowledge, you can say that my soul had a certain history that went through and this certain knowledge that came with it. Let's say that we're talking about a very, like a new, when the soul is created without getting into how and all of that, very kind of like virgin-like. So what is the difference? How is this conscious being? It's very different from another one. If we don't have the experience and the karma, because we didn't have the body that let us do these actions or the physical appearance, or kind of like this, this body, heaven instead of kind of like the body.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Makes sense, perfectly. And I'm processing how best to answer it because we're just starting this semester. Unless I have the opportunity to build something I probably can give you a headline answer, and then I'd like the privilege of building that answer. Just as there is individuality on the material sphere, there is individuality in the material sphere because there is individuality in the spiritual sphere. Okay? Like for now, two of us, or multiple of us, we are individual. We have our own set of material elements, body, mind, and intelligence. While there is some commonality, because it's earth, water, fire, air, ether, it's earth, water, fire, air, ether. Yet there is distinction, there's individuality. My feelings and Maurice's feelings are not the same, because we might react to a circumstance similarly or differently. So there is this very important concept called simultaneous oneness and difference. That the oneness is in quality. That I am a conscious living being and you're a conscious living being. That's the oneness in quality, and there is individuality. So there is individuality in the absolute realm, and so there is individuality in the relative realm here.
Can you quantify the number of souls?
Yeah, it's unlimited. You cannot quantify.
So it's created at once.
Yeah, when you use the word creative, we're including the time dimension here. Let's at some point in time, we have to remove the time dimension as well. Because time indicates past, present, and future. And that's only within the material realm. The soul doesn't have a concept of, when we say it's eternal, there's no concept of time in the past, there's no concept of past, present, and future. It comes only within the material sphere. So there's a shift that we need to make. A question that I would like you to think about. Okay? And when we meet next time, we'd like to discuss. Question is, the soul that is free of all material elements, not guided by or influenced by time, what is it that makes the soul within this realm be within the jurisdiction of matter and influenced by time? You don't have to answer now. Something to think about. Back to what we're doing. So as our ego influences us, influences us, we have a sense of identity, and within that identity we have what we say likes and dislikes and tastes and affiliations, etc. Now, the soul, we're starting with this, premise that the soul is eternal, cognizant, and blissful. Blissful means happy. And when we come into this material sphere, we don't feel, we don't experience eternality. Right? There is birth and there is death. We don't experience full cognizance either. Right? When we are born, so as we go through life, we are taught things, we learn things, and then we forget them. So our cognizance is variable. We learn, we forget, we come to educational institutions to learn certain things, try to apply those knowledge, we gain some experience, and hopefully some wisdom, and then we forget. And then bliss or happiness, we can't say that we are always happy. True? There is a sense of, I guess we use the word, the opposite of happiness, unhappiness. And the happiness and unhappiness that we experience goes through cycles. Sometimes happy, sometimes unhappy. And also that our happiness is relative. What makes me happy might not make someone else happy. Like they say, one man's food is another man's poison. Now when we move from one species to another species, what might not be happiness in the human human species might be very much in another species. Right? So like say the bone. In the human form of life, we don't chew on a bone. It's not something that makes us happy. For those people who eat meat, they chew the flesh and they throw away the bone. But if the soul moves into a dog's body, that bone is very attractive. It's like what we're waiting for. Throw a bone. Yeah? So our perception of happiness also changes as our identity changes. And our ability to perceive things are on the basis of what we call senses. We have 5 senses: the eyes, the nose, the ears, the tongue, and the skin. These are called knowledge acquiring senses. We interact with the world through these senses. And these senses are nothing but information sensors. They bring in information. Then there is this filter of the mind. The mind is the interpreter. It makes the picture, it has a composite ability to put everything together. And with the help of intelligence, it gives it some value. And when the senses and mind and intelligence combination changes, the same information is interpreted and valued differently. So the soul in the human body receives information in one way, and the soul in another body receives the same information and interprets it differently. And that's happening because of what we say, ego, false ego, identity. And beyond that is the soul, which is actually not touched by these things, yet influenced by. So what we ascribe value to depends on our identity. So most of you wrote down, very important for me is family. When we write that down, immediately it tells us our identity. I'm identifying myself as an integral unit of that family. Correct? And that's why it's dear to me. As soon as our identity changes, that family has no value for us anymore. So I'll take a fictitious family. Mother, father, let's say 2 kids, happy family. I saw a cartoon. There's a family of 4, father, mother, and 2 kids. So the son has an iPod. The daughter, there's little bubbles on top and it says iPod. For the daughter, it says iPhone. For the mother, it says iPad. And for the father, it says I paid. He paid for all. So within that, let's say the father, he identifies himself as the husband and father within this family. And we were just talking hypothetical here now. Let's say that the soul that was in the body of the father moves from that body into a dog's body. Meaning the father died, and suppose they have a pet, it's a dog, and that soul came back in that dog's body. I'm just talking karma right now, I'm not explaining anything. Okay, so just go with me for the, if you will, humor me for a while. Will the person in the dog's body look at the family the same way? My wife, my son, my daughter. So our sense of identity brings, we ascribe value to things and people according to our identity. And we move through life. So according to that identity, we think certain things are important, certain things are significant, certain things are very, very valuable. When actually, if you look at it from the vantage point of the soul, these things are temporary. They go away when the soul moves out of the body. So the Vedas, what are the Vedas? The Vedas are, the word Veda means knowledge. And the true definition of knowledge means to know something as it is. If I know something as it is, that means I have true knowledge. It may be something else and I can interpret it a different way, and all of that is possible. So let's say a pen. If I know that this is a pen, it's as it is a writing instrument, then I have true knowledge about it. But I can use it as a projectile. I can use it as a paperweight. I can use it for other purposes, but I don't have knowledge of it. I don't have true knowledge of it. Although it may have utility in other ways. So knowledge, or true knowledge, means to know something as it is. And when we look at life, when we look at things in our life, it's important to look at it from the platform of its true identity. That the earth, water, fire, air, ether combination is temporary. It goes away with death. But people, in general, put a lot of value into things that are temporary. So the Vedas, their main purpose is to give us a different dimension of perspective, to see things, or a different paradigm by which we can look at life. Meaning, put the important things in the important place and look at things in their true, place. So when something is material and not eternal, when I am an eternal being, I don't place so much value for those things. For example, for a young lady, if she breaks her nail, you know what it means. It's the end of the world. Because there is value assigned to the nail. But the great thinkers, from the Vedic vantage point, they look at life as the distinction between that which is eternal and that which is temporary. And that which is temporary doesn't hold much value. It's there, it has utility, and that's about it. And they pursue that which is eternal, because that is really meaningful. So the human spirit of inquiry is, stimulated or awakened by such distinction. It's called, in Sanskrit, it's called Sankhya. Sankhya means analytical view. If we analyze things down to the bare, to the wire, then one can distinguish between that which is eternal and really, meaningful, and that which is temporary and has utility, but is not the real purpose of life. Okay. So what happens is, because we're operating with a sense of identity, a false ego, if you will, we have a tendency to ascribe value to things that are temporary and not consider things that are eternal. Not just things, the eternal realities, if you will. So at Vedic Vision Club, our one of the goals is to at least have certain conversations and help us with a different dimension of looking at things. So we consider life not just, I'm a student, I got to get my grades, I got to get a job, do something there. It's just not that. Something else. Look at life, from the real vantage point, if you will. So that's what we do here. That's what we've been doing for some years. Any questions, comments?
How can we have access to the eternal when the real the soul?
Yeah.
We can't identify, we can't
about the soul, but I can't access it. When we meet next week, we're going to talk about how we acquire knowledge in the first place. Right? I'll give you a little summary, and then that's the next week's full discussion on acquiring of knowledge. So, I said we have these 5 senses, the mind and the intelligence, and that is called sense perception, called direct sense perception. I can touch this. I can see it. Somebody would like to taste it if they like, but these are the 5 senses by which I gather information. Yet these 5 senses have certain limitations. If I were to turn off all the lights in this room, I can't see the chair. That's one of the limitations. It's dependent on other factors for me to gather this information. Or sound. I can hear between 20 hertz and 22,000 hertz. But sound waves exist on either sides of that range. That's the human range, right? And when we use those, our cellular technology, other technology, we use those waves, but we can't decipher sound beyond this range. So there are limitations. And another limitation is with age or however, we need correctional devices, spectacles, hearing aid, whatever. It's correctional devices required. So direct sense perception doesn't give us complete information. Then we utilize another dimension, another paradigm. It's called deductive knowledge. We have a sense of cause and effect, although I might not directly perceive. For example, far away I see black smoke. I infer that there is fire. Although I don't see the fire, but I infer because there is some cause and effect relationship that I am aware of. Even that gives me partial information, doesn't give me the full information. So the Vedas say the truth, complete truth, can be acquired from a third way called Shabda, meaning it's direct knowledge that's given from a person who has received and acquired or experienced the truth. Just as we are experiencing, they experienced it from someone else. It's like hearing. In simple language, it's called by hearing the truth. What do you use the word? Report? Yeah, by expressing. Now, it's not just some experience. That experience has to be confirmed by an absolute source. We'll talk about this. I don't want to get into next week's stuff. But there's a third way. We operate on 2 different systems of knowledge. One is called the ascending system of knowledge, which is what we are very familiar with, the empirical system of knowledge. We start with hypotheses, assumptions, we perform certain empirical tests, we gather some data, and then we try to gather knowledge or some truth of things. The other system is called the descending system. So we'll talk about these 2 as well. But that's how we know things. Any other comments, questions? I didn't get a chance to talk about relationships necessarily.
The question is like we made the list, and then supposing I'm attached to young men, so how do I progress from being attached to something like that to like, using my time for something better?
Yeah. Within the discussion was the I guess phrases. But once we begin to appreciate our sense of identity as different from what we think we are right now, our set of values, our set of what we ascribe importance to, likely should also change. Now, I'm not expecting that, in half an hour we're all going to get up and say, I'm a spiritual being. I'm not limited by matter and trying to walk through the wall or something. But it's a new paradigm to consider. So an exercise that we could do is, in whatever things we spend our time and energy in, we can ask how much of it is within the jurisdiction of matter, material, and how much of it is within the jurisdiction of that which is not material. The question would be, so what should I do, to stop? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're not asking that material activities be stopped, because we don't have anything spiritual to hold on to yet. But at least that we look at things differently. Even if we can begin to see that, oh, this is material, that's a good start. I'm not asking or expecting a whole different paradigm shift. All I'm asking for is to consider that, oh, this is material. This is material. As we go through what we are eating, where we're sitting, this is material. And where we see life, there is a combination of matter and spirit. That exercise is a good exercise to start with. That's all I'm asking for. How to utilize attachment to Yahoo Mail beyond that through the course of the semester. Is that right? Okay, if nothing else, we'll have lunch. Yes, please join us for lunch. We'll have lunch. We're serving here? Okay, we'll have lunch here and we'll talk informally. But thank you for joining us.